Welcome, welcome, welcome to our session. This is a free masterclass that we have put out, or I'm putting out, and I know that a whole bunch of members are on here. So whether you're watching live or you're watching the replay, this is the 6 sabotaging patterns and the 9 wealth archetypes. So we're going to do we're going to bring in a deeper awareness to our 6 core sabotaging identities that, and we're going to do this based in what's blocking our wealth flow, because this came out of the wealth class that we've been doing. So we're going to reveal some of the power and purpose that is behind each of the 9 wealth archetypes. Now, these archetypes are, general archetypes that do exist, but I've kind of Tracy-anized it. So we've got maybe some different names on them and very specific to wealth. So we are going to go through these and we're going to have hopefully some fun. I'm planning on having fun. I've invited in and set the intention for this class that we're anchoring into the archetype fields. I've asked the energies to also be present. We're going to, also one of the things I did hold the intention for, again, whether you're watching live or the recording, is just also activating our own wealth codes. And of course, the oversoul of this class, my team, and bringing in the soul lineage of everyone that is attending. So one of the things I would love for us to just actually start with is dropping into our just taking a deep breath, allowing any preconceived ideas, any projections, or anything else just to fall away. Some of these things you may have heard before, some of them may not be things, but just be in a space of receiving. Whether it lands, whether it doesn't land, it doesn't matter. Just, we're just going to breathe into that. Bringing in also, your highest wealth timeline as we do this, so that the archetypes maybe speak to you. Maybe the sabotaging behaviors speak to you. We just want to bring in all those energies, bringing them here and present as we, go through a discussion through the archetypes, through the sabotaging patterns. And even what I've added in, what spoke today as I was putting this together, was even some of our ineffective choice patterns. So we're going to give an overview of all of this. And just remembering too, we're not here to fix you. We're here to remember what's always been true. Wealth is actually a truth and in your field for you. So we just breathe that in and breathe that into our heart. Yeah, good. Yeah. So I'm going to just kind of start with how some of this came about. First, it came from, and I want to thank the membership because they asked for conversation with money. And this whole class has been developed. Anybody that's already chosen it or will choose it, I tune into the energy, and it has kept growing. It has grown from a few weeks into where we now have quizzes. We have some, 12 chakra recode activation, and we have 7 weeks of different types of energies. And from that really was my bringing in 30 years of a lot of my studying, psychology, sociology, behavior management, and then my own intuitive and awareness. So I have a fascination with the science, and I have a fascination with I guess some people would just call it woo woo, whatever you want to call it, but all of the energies that are out there. So I love bringing things together. And so my why in creating this specifically for today is that, I've created this work not just from theory, but from my own actual embodiment. So I have probably lived, and most of you will see yourselves that go maybe a little bit into most of the archetypes. I have gone through probably every type of sabotaging loop, from performing, over giving, doubting, avoiding, floating, proving. I'm pretty sure everyone has whispered that I was not safe to receive in my wealth. I was not safe to receive from others. That I had to do a whole lot more to actually be worthy, or that it wasn't even safe for me to trust my own yeses. So this has just been getting more and more dialed in for myself. I was thinking about this and I was like, am I just a slow learner that it's taken 30 years? No, I'm not. You guys can get it dialed in a whole lot faster because now we have, you know, access to so much greater. And the world itself has shifted and the consciousness is raising. So I find a lot of things shift a lot more quickly and easily. So I've gone through all of this. So I built the system because I've seen what happens when these patterns run the show. So I've upgraded, but every time I go to do a timeline jump or I'm shifting something in my world to the next thing that's possible or available, I realize that, all of my unconscious patterns come up in different ways. They may not be the same way as what they used to be. I may not be telling myself the same story about money in the direct, I have none. So that was, the lack or not enough, but I might have some really unconscious ones that don't even look like it. But now that knowing what I know about which patterns I have, I don't try to fix them. I learned that really beautifully last year when Robbie and I were on the Soul Safari in South Africa with William Whitecloud and Chris Duncan, and seeing the fact that it's like, yeah, I don't actually have to clear this. I don't have to try to fix this. What it is just getting the mastery when it comes up. So this has come from has been like almost a year because that was last August. So of 2024. So this has been, the accumulation of 30 years of me having this fascination and looking and knowing that more was actually available, that things weren't shifting in the way I really wanted them to. So I did the science part, and then it was still like I'm sticking. Did all the clearing stuff, did all the, energy work. And don't get me wrong, a lot of this is what I do bring in, but I was still getting myself really, really stuck at points. I could maintain or I could increase and shift some stuff in my world, but then I would get stuck. Anybody else like that? Anybody else like, fuck? And yes, I am going to swear because I do have a sailor mouth. I'm pretty sure I was a sailor in another lifetime. Actually, I know I am because I know how to tie great knots for the boat. Yeah, so I got yes, right? 100%. And it's, if you're like me, and I know because I work with people all over like me, right? You guys are intuitives, you're healers, you're aware individuals, you've all done the work. I know, yes, I started with working with people that were in the start stage. Who I'm working with now have done some of this work. We've read the books. Who read The Secret? and got a little dialed in and then poof, falls apart, or it's like, oh, it's no longer working. And go, oh, I must be doing something wrong. There's something wrong with me. Well, that would be me because of some of my unconscious patterns that are running, some of my archetypes, that are running. So I want to really get this dialed in for people so that we can see it, because we don't even realize when we are going back. Now, I know anybody that's in membership has heard me say this, or if you've been part of anything that I have presented, you will hear me say this because I find this so freaking fascinating, and you guys might not, but I'm going to share it anyways. You can take it, you can leave it, but it was something that really assisted me, is that in the first 7 seconds that we experience something, especially if there's a trigger to that, the 7 seconds is an unconscious thought. There, 7 seconds. I love doing the pause because it always makes me really aware of, wow, 7 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but it can be. So you go into the unconscious thought when something is coming up and triggered in your world for 7 seconds, and you're accessing this unconscious or subconscious. I'm going to use both words because people use both words and they mean the same darn thing. Okay. So the first 7 seconds, you got your unconscious, subconscious that has been activated. Then the next 90 seconds, you guys, 90 seconds, that's a minute and a half. The 7 seconds seemed long, but the next 90 seconds, we will have a feeling in our body somewhere in our body, can be engaged, can be in our field. Feeling is typically what we're feeling in our body. But, a lot of empaths, we also feel it in our body and feel it in our energetic field as well. So in 90 seconds, we've got the feeling that's attached to the unconscious thought. And we're going to go through some of those a little bit deeper here. And when we're going into that, then we're also engaging, you guys, engaging your body and your systems in there. Your whole nervous system gets activated as well, right? So you're like, everything is like boom, 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 ignited. And then after 90 seconds, you guys, if you're still feeling the feeling, I'm going to tell you, this was the game changer for me. If I am still in that feeling after that, I know I've attached a story to what I'm feeling. Bam! It was like, holy shit, Tracy. So if 5 minutes later or 5 hours later or 5 days later, I'm still in that feeling, I have somewhere attached stories to it. All right. And this is where, and I'm not going to get into the whole neuroscience of stuff because you guys can all find that stuff. People are talking about that everywhere. But this is why, even and I'm just going to make this connection. So, like in membership, in the wealth class that we are doing, why we actually do some of our practices daily is so that you're changing the story. We go into a future remembering and we attach the emotion to it. Because here's the beautiful thing. Our mind, our brain doesn't know the difference whether it is actually have happened or if it's something that you are creating. The thing that we typically respond to is how we have felt in that, right? Like, so example, you go to open up. So when I used to be in my real lack story, my emotional component in my body would be like, oh my God, I got to go to the ATM. Even the fact of using, right? Or, like, okay, this goes far back, but before ATM and debit cards, going to the bank to pull out cash. Oh, did I make sure, in my checking account that I calculated all my checks correctly? Right. And waiting, right? Like, oh my gosh. Oh, did I forget that there was a bank fee? Is this going to, like all the stories that I would have told in that, right? So there was always an emotional response and trigger waiting for something to happen. So guess what? That was the emotion I was attaching. So guess what happened? Something would happen. So what I've learned to dial in is, how do I want my response to be? I am training my system to be something different. And this is why also, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, affirmations don't work. Well, I shouldn't say they don't work. They can work if you initially have the feeling behind it. Once you've embodied it, so like I embody the energy of magical living. So I am magic. I have magic in my life. There's no doubt about that. Now, I used to use a ton of affirmations. I taught affirmations. But the thing, what I was missing in that yes, I could create a little bit with it, but then it would get stalled. It was not a sustainable energy, because initially when I would start with an affirmation, and this is for anybody, you start with it and you connect into the feeling of that. Oh, I am money. Oh, I am wealth. You're ignited, you're lit up, but it's not a sustainable energy because we have our unconscious, subconscious patterns that are running, which are linked to our archetypes. So in that, then you got where it's like, oh, okay, if I'm like, I am wealth, money always comes to me. And the feeling though is like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. What I'm magnetizing is what I'm actually feeling in there. So it's really important to really understand how much the unconscious, subconscious patterns are running in our lives. So it's just to know we're not broken. We don't got to fix anything. Just remember you're coded. You're just coded with some information that actually is not what you're wanting to be coded for. Good news, we can code ourselves for something different, right? So in our archetypes, we're going to have some sabotaging patterns, but then we're actually going to also be able to connect into the genius and the brilliance, because they have both energies in there, right? They've got both energies in there, and we're going to kind of go through a highlight of all of the archetypes with that. So we're not just healing stuff. We're not here to just heal, or like, oh, heal me, fix me, right? We're actually, through this information, and this can be applied to more than just wealth, but these archetypes that we're going to go through, I have designed specifically for the wealth money, right? So what we're doing is we're actually building new timelines. This is how I can do intentional timeline jumping for myself. And I am not unique in there. Yes, I am a timeline recalibrator. I can see them in people's fields. That is so fun for me. It's something I love to do when I'm doing one-on-one sessions, even when we're doing, activations in some of my other stuff. I can see them when I'm working with people. I can see them in your fields, and you can access them too. Everyone is naturally doing some of this. I just have the capacity, because of my type of work I believe that I'm doing, that it becomes very, very present for me. All right. So we're going to be going onto a timeline where wealth isn't earned through suffering. Right? We don't have to earn it through suffering. I was that person. Don't be a Tracy like that. Don't be the old version of me. Right? We're going to do it through receiving through resonance, because we're that energy. Okay? How does that sound for everybody? Yeah, Julie's like, I've been having fun playing with this, and it does help. Yeah, that 7 seconds, 90 seconds and beyond, boom, boom. Yeah, I think it's a boom, but maybe it's just a little bam, or maybe it's like, oh, that's interesting. Whatever it is for you. It's just interesting information, right? Okay, so this is not going to be about shaming our sabotage self or our wounds. It's actually about us being able to see clearly about choosing something new. Okay, so every single archetype, you guys, is coded with wealth potential. I'm going to repeat that. Every single archetype is coded with wealth potential. Bam. Okay, you got all the information. Once we understand our frequency, though, behind the fear is where we can code that into our field. And here's another interesting little fact, and you'll have me dropping all of these because, hey, that's part of my human design. I love to investigate and get the information. Is that also that our DNA gets coded? Interesting. So you can actually change the coding in all of that. Now, in our wealth class, I don't remember which week it was. I think it was week 2. We did an ancestral lineage. And I'm going to actually suggest to anybody when they're done doing the course, that they actually might go back and do week 1 and week 2 and see what else has shifted in there. So you've always got the recordings. So patterns don't just show up in myself or in clients, right? They're like you'll have different types. So like there's the overgiver, the prover, the mystic. I'll go through all of them. So I've probably danced within most of them or all of them in some ways. Some I've actually worn. They've been my identity, where they were my identity, like the prover. Oh my goodness. Well, and just FYI, the prover is still my main archetype. So I developed a quiz that worked on it for many months based off of some of the stuff that I had learned last year in South Africa. It's in depth. I don't know, remember 44, 45 questions. Doesn't take long. I think maybe 10 minutes or so to fill out. There a lot of multiple choice, but then there's also where you can make comments. The more information that you input, the better your report is going to be as well. But I developed that because I've floated through them and, we wear them all. We can wear them all as an identity. That it's especially like, yeah, the prover, right? Like over giver. When we're giving too much to people, we're over giving and underpricing. Those are identities when I, had to prove that I'm working hard, right? And I noticed that one came up for me I think it was last year or the year before. Or maybe a couple of years ago, one of my family members was talking about another family member about, oh my goodness, how hard they work. And my first response was, and I do too. And I was like, whoa, 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 that's not your identity any longer. But I wanted to go in to list all the ways in my life I have worked hard. And I was like, just wait a second, Tracy, that's not in alignment at all with what you're asking for. So I was like, boop, all right, we don't need to step into that energy. So it was my subconscious that instantly wanted to go in to prove to all these people that, yes, I've worked hard in my life as well. Who's done that where they're asking for, I want ease, I want flow, I want, free time, I want, all of these other things. But then you hear yourself telling the story. I got to prove. Yeah. I've had to work hard for that. I've put in many hours, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I used to, right? So for me, I know the prover because it is one of my archetypes. It might not show up like that, but it can show up in other ways as well. Very hidden little sneaky buggers. That's what I call them. Robbie calls his what is it? A red-headed little, oh yeah, he's in the background listening. He's like the little horn bugger. So we all have little names for that, right? Okay, so my personal truth is these patterns don't just have to show up. They can be something that we shift out of, okay? All of them were rooted in an illusion, something that I've either created before the age of 8, from 0 to 7, in that time period, or I brought them in through some of my ancestral, my lineage, some of our galactic origins, also some of the lessons that I came here to actually overcome. So for me, this is where it is a little bit more than just the 0 to 7 type of information, because yes, I've got those, but I also came in to experience certain things. So I've got certain ones that maybe my sister doesn't have or my brother doesn't have. And we all had the same experience growing up, but we've all came in here for to have certain lessons and certain experiences as well. So we've all interpret them in different ways. So my children, we can look at, they both have had the same experiences. One will have this running, one will have that running. And just FYI to all you parents, there is no way that you're actually going to have children that never have any subconscious, unconscious things running. Because it can be as simple as when they were maybe 6 months old and they were crying because they were wet or they were needing to be fed. But at that time, you had to go to the washroom, or maybe you had to go make the bottle, or, there was another sibling that required attention right at that moment and they had to wait 5 minutes. It could have created an energy of not being enough, not being loved. You don't know where they come in. But my belief, and this is just my belief, is that we all have little lessons in there. So this activates a lot of the energies in there, right? So we'll have things like, I'm not good enough. I got that one. I got that one. And then it pairs into my prover archetype because of some of the experiences that I've had. So I just want to refer to the quiz. Anybody that hasn't done it, I will be sharing links and stuff. If you're in the money class or membership, you guys have access to that. And there's 2 different quizzes in that. So and I'm just going to layer that a little bit, because we also do have our human design and our astrology that does have some effects because we have different centers that get affected. All right. So let's go into the 6 sabotaging identities, you guys. So sometimes what we call sabotage, I'm going to call a distorted soul energy, a distorted soul strategy. So I want to be clear first before we jump in here also is that we've been lied to about manifestation, right? We were told to visualize, repeat the affirmations. And like I mentioned before, if your nervous system isn't on board, guess what? Nothing changes. So I want you to ask yourself, what is your nervous system actually manifesting on autopilot? Like if we look at that, what is my nervous system actually manifesting on autopilot? And if you're like, I don't know, well, look at what's showing up in your world, because that's going to be what it's manifesting on autopilot. You're not doing it from your dreams here, you guys. We don't want to be doing it from our past. We're not doing it from affirmations. But we're actually creating and manifesting from our stored chemistry in our body even, right? So, which I'm going to go through these. I want you to just kind of really even look at which sabotaging identity do you feel even in your cells? Even if your mind has evolved beyond it. This is the key, right? What is in our cells beyond what's in our mind? Because I have done all the work. And I was still getting triggered, getting set up. I've gained a great mastery in a lot of the things, but it was like there's still some stuff there. So this is where we want to get to what's in our cells and beyond what our mind is telling us. Because if it was the conscious mind, you guys, we know this stuff, right? That's not what we're defaulting to. It's actually our conscious mind is not the one in charge. It is not the one that's in charge. It's the captain of the ship, and the unconscious subconscious is the crew. Guess what? The crew's in charge. Because if the captain is saying, I want this, but the the crew is in a mutiny of like, no, we're going that direction. Guess which direction you actually go. So some of the six, I'm not going to say some, the six sabotaging identities are not just thoughts, they're actually imprints. They're identity imprints. So they're deep energetic blueprints that create the loop or an oscillating energy. They keep, or the loop of logic. So I think it was week maybe 3 or 4, we talked really deeply about the different structures in the wealth class. So I'm not going to go into them here because I mean, we do not have 10 hours or 12 hours or 20 hours to go through. You want more of that information, that you're going to find that in there. So each one distorts our frequency of receiving, of creating, and trusting. So each one of these sabotaging identities influence, right? Our receiving, our creating, and our trusting. And yes, I'm applying it right now to wealth, but this can be applied anywhere in your life. Okay. So these identities are often adopted, like I said, really early in life, and they are unconsciously reinforced by our environment, by our family, by our spiritual communities, by our ancestry, by our society, even where we live, our location. Yeah. So these aren't just beliefs, these are actually identities. These are programs that are running. These are the self perceptions. These are the identities that we have. So, number one is, and they're not in any order of this. I've just put it. I'll just put them in there just so I can keep track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm not good enough. Number one, right? So if we're in this energy, we're typically overcompensating, overworking. Did I mention that one before previously? Overperforming, and then you'll still feel behind. Right? So, and it doesn't mean that you're gonna, if you have this one running, doesn't mean you're gonna step into each part of that. I would be the overcompensator. I would be the overworker. I can see, certain friends where it's that overperformer. I gotta be, in the limelight. And, those are the people that tend to really also sometimes interrupt at times. But all of it, you never feel complete. You still feel like you're behind. So it's the loop with that one is like, if I just try harder, maybe I'll finally be enough. Now, this is not a conscious thought. This is the unconscious thought that's running. Number 2, I'm not worthy. So you hesitate to ask. You hesitate to receive. You hesitate to charge. And guess what? You also might hesitate to rest. Yeah. And the also the loop there, the lot is others deserve this more than me. So if you're in a deserving, right? You're probably at the I'm not worthy. I can remember this one running in my world. Absolutely. And you probably have functioned through all of the 6 that I'm going to mention at some point, but you're going to have some that run a little stronger than others. Number 3, I'm not capable. So you'll doubt yourself, you'll doubt your leadership, you'll doubt your intuition, you'll even doubt your dreams, you'll doubt that you can do it. You're in doubt. And the loop with that one would be someone else knows better than I do. Someone else knows better than I do. Number 4, I'm insignificant. I'm insignificant. Yeah. Ways that will show up is like you shrink your voice. You'll dim your magic. You wait to be chosen. So I can easily go from, not good enough to I'm insignificant, right? Depending on what energies are around me, I'll make someone else. Oh, I'll just wait. I'm not going to speak, right? The loop in that one is I don't really matter, so why try? And I'm bringing the loops in at a very low level. You can also be functioning at a little bit of a higher one in that. Yeah. So, and again, these are going to be the things that are popping in with the first 7 seconds, right? And then we can pivot out of that. Yeah. I'm not perfect. So with that, you might delay, you might edit things endlessly, you might never launch something, you might like if you're in a career, over compensate in reports. You're, always in that delaying editing. Because it's just not because you're waiting for it to be perfect because you're not perfect. So the loop is that I can't show up until it's flawless. You're always looking for that flawless in there. And again, all of these also can have a genius part to them. I don't belong. So if you feel like an outsider, even in your own creations, that's right? You don't belong. You always feel like the outsider. I remember doing a meditation or activation. I don't even remember what this was for many years ago. And it was seeing myself, the imagery of on a playground with all these kids, and everybody's got their hands held together. And they were, going around in a circle, right? Like everybody's moving and they're going around in a circle. And here's this little image of Tracy just standing on the outside looking in, wanting so badly to be part of that, but not feeling like she did, right? So that was the not belonging energy in there. So when you're in a loop of that, the world isn't made for someone like me. And the not belonging is going to probably resonate with a lot of people who are intuitives, who are healers, who are, different in the world as well. Even if that's not what you do for a job, you don't need to, but that fascination in that, right? And then that makes you feel like you don't belong. Well, because you're probably trying to belong into groups that aren't your people. That's a whole nother conversation. So every one of these identities generates a behavior. But most importantly, it shapes your choice field. Okay. So all of these also do have a genius to them, which we're not going to go through here, but because what we're really trying to get you to is that these are the ones that you're functioning from. I just want you to have the awareness that you're functioning from these. And then we actually are creating our identity and we're creating a choice field. So then we go into typically with those as well, some ineffective choice patterns. So let's just look at it like this. If the identity is the soil, choice is the root system, most people think they're choosing, but what we're actually doing is we're going into a distorted loop. We're going into a distorted strategy, the oscillating loop. So some of these ineffective choice patterns appear logical, but they're actually fear coded. So I'm going to go through a list of those ones. Who would like to hear those? Give me some feedback in the chat. Oh yeah, I see hand waving. Yes, let's go there. Okay, Bobby, do you have a question? No, just yes, she wants this. Bring it on. All right. Yes, yes, yes. So I didn't have slides made up and it popped into my head about 10 minutes before we started this. Slides would have been nice. So what I will do is I will pull out some of this information for you guys and we will get it all created really pretty and beautifully for you and get it out to you sometime this week. It might be after the recording is out, but it really popped and I was like, well, that information would have been useful at least yesterday. But feel free to write down, take notes, because honestly, there is a link of this information when you are actually writing between the actual hand movement and the brain. It actually lands it in there and creates the information a little more stable in there. All right. So first choice is choice by limitation. First choice, right? Choice by limitation. And I'm going to be putting choice in front of all of these, you guys. Members will know why. Because everything comes down to choice. Even though we don't realize we're making those choices, because the unconscious subconscious is running the show. So when we're functioning from choice by limitation, we are choosing only what seems possible. Only what seems reasonable or safe. So this is when we choose from what our current reality says is available. Oh, yeah. This is when, I'm going to repeat that. This is when you choose only from what your current reality says is available. You're not choosing from your soul. You're not and when I say choosing from your soul, that is what if I'm not choosing from my desired reality, if I'm not choosing from my true choices, if I'm not choosing from my 4 orientation choices. And if anybody's like, what is she talking about that? That's a deep dive, and we do that in the class and even deeper into membership. So, but this one is where we're choosing what only seems possible, right? This is what's available. This is the thing that's possible. All right. You're basically choosing what doesn't scare you. Okay. So that's the energetic loop. You only choose what doesn't scare you because, again, your unconscious is always, when it's running, it's always wanting to keep you safe and secure. And what it knows is only what you've experienced to date. So everything else, even what you're saying you want, seems scary, right? It doesn't know it. It doesn't know we're going to survive it, right? So you're only going to choose what doesn't scare you. So how this impact, and I'm going to bring this into how these choices can actually also impact your wealth, right? So how that can impact your wealth is that you never leap. You wait for permission. It's that simple. You never leap. You never make that choice. You may be aware of it, and you're always waiting for permission. Now, it might go back to some of the other ones that we talked about, right? Oh, I got to get it perfect. Oh, I got to, right? Like, can you guys see how some of this, I'm just going to bring it into some very specific, direct, and then you guys are going to see how you yourself layer it in there. So if you're waiting for permission, you never take those steps, right? You're choosing by the limitations of what is available. This is all I see in my reality. I don't even know how, right? Like, so you limit yourself. Here's an example in my world. So last year after Soul Safari, I was sitting and doing my Land of Plenty. We all went and did that. Plus, I was also in a Jeep with William Whitecloud. And in my awareness, I was like, I want to do something more with this man. Brilliant. He is one of my mentors. He's somebody that I loved all of his books as well. They were a catalyst in my world. And I was like, so that there's an awareness, right? Something more. Now, in my head, I'm like, oh, I might do some work with him. Like maybe I'll hire him for something. Maybe I'll, take some of his advanced class, whatever. Maybe I'm coming back to Soul Safari, which I am. I'm doing that one though, just with Chris, because last year was both William and Chris. It was a one-time thing that the two of them did together. And I was like, there's no effing way I'm missing that. Anyways, so, and then I did my Land of Plenty and I was like, just putting that in there. And I have also in my Land of Plenty to create amazing, luxurious, soul changing retreats and workshops. Now, this past week, I got information that I get to speak at an event that I'm going to be creating that William Whitecloud has said yes to being a keynote speaker. Now, if I would have gone into, I'm just using this as an example here, you guys, if I would have gone into my limitations, would have been, oh, I'm not enough. Oh, don't get me wrong. Some of my spiraling unconscious things were like, can you do that? Can you really, right? But the thing is that I didn't limit myself for a choice of what could be available because I didn't know the how or the in-between of that. My current reality would have been showing me something very different than something else. So I sat in that, been in the tension of that, haven't tried to fix any of it. And then the choices and the things come in. So the thing is that we will limit ourselves based on what we see. Another example in that one, grew up, lived in a really small community that serviced a large area and very religious community. And I opened up a metaphysical store and spots for coaches. The store was so successful. I mean, I chose to close it. And I mean, many of you know that story, again, by guidance. But the thing is that if I would have looked at the current reality of like, well, you can't do this here, nobody's done it yet, blah, 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 you never leap. You never make the choice, right? Next choice by indirectness. So we choose the process, not the result. Okay? Again, choice of indirectness. So you're going to choose the process, not the result. So how that can look is that I'm going to choose to do more healing. I'm going to choose to, I got to learn more. If I do more healing, I can eventually make more money. Choice of indirectness. I actually heard this one last week when I was on one of Chris's calls listening. Choice of, not somebody not going out and doing their advertising, even though they know that that's what is there, because I need to lose more weight. I need to do, right? Like you got to change her body before being put out there. That's actually a choice of indirectness, right? Because you're choosing a process over the result of what you're aware of. So you're never actually going to choose wealth. So if I choose to do more healing, if I choose to lose the weight, if I choose, all of blah, 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 so I can eventually make more money, then you're never choosing the wealth. You're choosing the process, not the result. And I know that this is making sense for people that are in the wealth class of now some of these weeks. They're like, oh yeah, there, okay, I can hear it. So the energetic loop here is I need to earn my outcome. I need to earn it by choosing the hard path first. That's actually the energetic loop, you guys. I need to earn more. I need to earn my outcome by choosing the hard path first versus I'm going to just step into it and, and you might still do more learning. You might still do, those components, but you don't wait. You're choosing into the result versus the process to get you there. So the wealth impact for this one is the goal stays way out in the distance. It's way in the distance, right? So the nervous system stays in a work mode. Man, do you think that would be a little bit of an energy leak or exhausting? Right? So this one is yes. And I mean, I did that. Well, I just got to take this again. I got to learn this. Now I get also, so here's the part also for myself in that is that yes, as with my human design, that there is that investigator that wanting to learn things, but I can overgo into this one of like, oh, I got to learn more before I can do this. Oh, I got to do this before I can do that. So this is where you got anybody that has access to my soul aligned planner, which is again in lots of different things. This is where you get into the result versus the process. So as Robbie always says, get out of the how, get back into your wow. I love using that for myself. So the choice of indirectness. Yeah, I can see that some of you guys are like, yeah, me. Yeah, absolutely. Choice 3, choice by default. So that's actually where we're not making a conscious choice. We're actually letting the circumstances decide it. This is also could be known as energetic passivity. Just, being very passive. Right? So if I'm not making a conscious choice and just letting circumstances decide it, that can look like when I've just handed everything over, right? And yes, there are certain components of like, okay, I like signs. But when I'm not actually being engaged and actually taking any action towards anything, I might be going into the default. I'm just going into the default. You're not making a conscious choice. It can also look like I'm hearing this like, well, this just always happens to me. This is how it's always flows. Oh, yeah. So you're actually going back to a default in that. You're letting your circumstances decide it. Oh, you know what? I don't have the $10,000 for this. So I cannot choose that. I don't have the money. Oh, I don't have the time, right? So we're letting the default. Now, instead of going into the result of like, oh, this is actually what I'm going to create, and I'm going to have this. I'm going to choose this. So you just go back to default because, you know, the circumstances are showing me that. So that's also where we get passive. It's also something where, and I mean, I do a lot of work with energetic beings that we do not see around us. And I see this happen as well, where people will default to let all the exterior, including non-physical beings, make the choices for them. They give over their power as well. So you're not actually making a conscious choice in there. There's a difference between handing everything over and also allowing yourself to be in the choice. You know, sometimes people will use that energetic passivity as well, you know. And yes, I will ask, okay, universe, deliver this, but I'm willing to take the actions that also come up that are involved in that versus just sitting there waiting and going, well, didn't show up. And this is the part for me that really didn't work when I read the Secret. I would go into the default. Okay, I've got it on my vision board. It's there. How come it hasn't shown up? Right? Because there were things that needed to happen and choices I needed to make in there. So the energetic loop in that one is, if I don't choose, I cannot fail. If I don't choose, I actually can't fail. Right? And this can be a big one, right? Especially for those of us that aren't good enough, that are insignificant, trying to get it perfect. If I don't actually choose, I can't fail. That's a great loop to have ourselves in there. And and how this can impact our wealth. That one was like, ouch, that one hit. How this one affects our wealth is that life just happens to you. And it's not happening through you, right? So you're always, and I'm going to use this word intentionally, at the expense of. Ooh. At the expense of. Can you see how that can relate in there? All right. Number 4, conditional choice. Okay. So this could look like, I'll choose to grow my business if I feel confident. I'll choose my business if this happens. I'll invest when I have more money. There's a conditional choice. You're making a condition to the choice. You're making future conditions the gatekeeper of now. So if this happens, then I can choose it. It could be the if or the then or the when. Those could be how some of those, show up. If, the when, yeah. Yep. I'll choose that when this happens. Then I can choose that. If. Anybody do that? Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I could give examples, but I think that one's pretty damn clear. It's just an if, and then, yeah, okay, I'll invest some more money when. Yeah. Versus, oh, the choice of, I'm going to invest money. Now, then I go into the choices and the actions and what has to be created in there. So the energetic loop in that one, I've lived my whole previous life like that. Yeah. Right? Conditional choices. I had this one really, really strong in the first part of my life, probably the first 30-ish or more years. And I get where it really came from because there were always conditions, right? Oh my gosh, even when I would, like put out a manifestation, if I do this, in an exchange, right? It was always, again, another wealth thing, right? An exchange, an exchange something. We were brought up religious, not extreme, but that was definitely, in our family. So, like, even when we would pray, there was an exchange. It was conditional. God, if you bring me this, I'll do this. I'll be a good girl. Okay, that definitely landed for somebody in there, whether they're on now or later. And I think we might even do a little bit of a recode at the very end of all of this, because we're bringing all of this up into yeah, we have some little throwing up emojis in the chat. So this is our energetic loop is really, I'll choose this when it's safe, right? And how that it impacts our wealth is that you actually are delaying your power indefinitely. You are delaying actually one of the core four that I function from, right? Of being your predominant creator. You're delaying your power indefinitely, so this will impact your wealth. All right, choice by reaction. Number 5, choice by reaction. So we're choosing something in order to avoid or overcome something else. Okay. How that might look. That one's like, ouch. I'll prove them wrong by succeeding. I'll never need help again. This one I had, I'll show them. Right? I'm going to prove them wrong. Like, so that's where we're going into a choice by reaction versus a choice of the result of what we're actually asking for. So how this energetic loop is, I choose based on pain avoidance, not on purpose. I'm choosing based on to avoid the pain, not through my purpose. Anybody else ever like, I'll prove them wrong? Again, these can be things that just come up though instantly, and we can actually navigate out of these really easily. So when we're in this one, how this impacts our wealth is that your choice actually lacks sovereignty. Okay, your choice actually lacks sovereignty. So what you're doing is you're actually functioning when you're choosing by reaction. It is a trauma coded. So do you see how this can affect your wealth if you're not in your sovereignty, but you're in the trauma code? No. In the reaction, choice by reaction. Yeah, that used to be a big one for me. It's not typically a default one for myself. But again, I've gone through all of these. Every one of you can see, and you're going to see ones though that are your main functional ones. So as I've evolved, as I have grown, as my identity has shifted and changed, then how I go through the choices has definitely also changed. And so number 6, choice by consensus. You're always asking everyone else, what should I do? What should I do? You might be asking friends. You might be asking a partner. You're always asking a coach the same thing. What should I do? What should I do? And I need enough consensus. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I am in my head spinning. So me asking for an input from a coach, from my partner, from, friends, from my energetic team, because that can be too, again, handing it all over there, is that there's a lack of trust in there. So I got to get the consensus. Now, having the information come in, if I'm asking, just to clarify this. So if you're asking for a question, and then you're using the information for your own awareness to get the hit, that's very different, because sometimes we get into our own little spinning, right? But if we never can make a choice, we always have to have everyone else's input into it. And then we choose from what the majority said. You're doing your choice by consensus. So I might go have I was creating some stuff a couple weeks ago. And I was like, okay, I need some input on this, right? Because I had narrowed it down to 3 or 4, right? So then it was like I asked my kids, my husband, hey, what's your input on this? Ultimately, though, what was my response? Some of it I get, because I was like, I need the response of like, yes, no. Right? No, that actually, like, my response on it assists me in getting in there. But if it's like, I can't make a choice, and whatever you guys decide, yeah, okay, 3 out of, blah, 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 have okay, that's what I'm going to do. So it's always the consensus of what everybody else is giving me. Yeah, too many options that I don't know what to choose from. Yep. So then you can ask, for you, Julie, right? And for, help me choose. And you need to listen to your awareness. So you guys, if anybody's ever done any one-on-one coaching with me or group coaching, you'll have seen me maybe at a time go, okay, take a coin, flip it. Heads is yes, no is, tails is no. And then notice what your response is, right? That's different. And I will also look at, am I trying to get this right? Am I trying to get this right, that I need all the consensus? Yes, that is exactly what I was doing in that. And just FYI, I had already messaged my VA, this is the one I like. And they all got back to me the next day when I picked, yay, but it didn't matter, right? So that's the thing, is that, are you choosing? So it's not, this isn't from a space of it's a collaboration. That's a little different. This is from the avoidance of self-trust. You're not trusting yourself. So the energetic loop in this one is that if they agree, I feel safe to decide. If everybody just agrees, I'll feel safe to decide. And FYI, you're never, ever, ever, ever going to get everybody in and around you to agree to the same thing. If you are in a job, if you are, look in your own business, not everybody is going to agree, because we all have our own filters, right? So if they all agree, then I can decide. Then it's safe to decide. That's the energetic loop that's running in there. How that impacts your wealth is that your intuition is actually muted, you guys. Your intuition is muted. And you have outsourced your alignment. You have outsourced your alignment to someone else. Again, they can have a body or they might not have a body. I've seen that happen too, where it's like they have, and this one can, run a little bit with by default as well. You might kind of go through a little bit of all of those, right? So if you're not in your intuition, it's muted. This can affect your wealth because you're not making the choices. Have you ever, and there could be choices that might be a hit for one person, and you're like, oh, it should be for me, but maybe it's not in your alignment. Maybe that's not in your congruence. So you're always wanting to follow your intuition. Don't outsource your alignment. Okay, so number 7, choice by adverse possession. Okay, choice by adverse possession. Right? So this is kind of taking it even deeper than what I said with, non-physical beings, but this choice sounds spiritual, but it's actually passive. Right? I'm just going to let the universe decide. I'm just going to let the universe decide that. Oh, I'm just going to let my team do this for me. I'm just going to, you become passive. You're looking for something outside of yourself to do all of the creation. So if there's no energetic commitment behind the trust, it just gets delayed. Delay is in disguise. It's just not happening. You have to have the energetic commitment behind the trust. Yes, I communicate with many non-physical energies and beings around me. I love that connection into it, but I'm the navigator. I'm the navigator to that. Is this a frequency match? I'm not just waiting for the universe to present something that I might have put onto a vision board. I hold visions, don't get me wrong, 100%. Every day I go into my true choices. I have developed and I have actual images that are a match so that I can get the feeling of that. But I remember doing my first vision board and I posted all my images on there and I hung it up in an area. I'm going to see it every day. Just waiting. I never engaged in the energy of it, but I was waiting and waiting and waiting for it to show up. That is the choice of adverse possession. Just waiting. Yeah, waiting for something else to decide it, waiting for something else to bring it. Going into the spiritual part of it. But it's still, you have a body. You're the one that needs to take the action. You're the one that needs to make those choices. So the energetic loop here is that if it's meant to be, it'll come. Oh my gosh, I was talking to a friend a few weeks ago, and she's so brilliant. And I could see her going into this choice. Just like, nah! Right? If it's meant to be, it'll come. Well, what do you want to come? What do you want to choose? What do you like? You've decided then that like you've given yourself a loop and an out. You're not actually choosing what you really want. Because anything can be meant to be if you want to actually create it. But you've got to go into the structures. You've got to go into, the choices. So the wealth impact on this one is that creation is frozen in neutrality. It's neutral. So your creation is frozen in neutral. Just think of a vehicle, stick shift, anything. You stick it in neutral, press the neutral button, give it the gas. Where are you going? Nowhere. Well, maybe the vehicle will just start moving. So, choice 8, choice by false polarity. Okay, choice by false polarity. So, if I choose this, I can't have that. That would have been me. Right? If I choose this, I can't have that. Right? That's a real binary thinking that's actually hidden. And actually hidden, it can apply to love or money, family or purpose, safety or visibility, right? I had this one running, right? It was like, well, I've got this amazing relationship, right? I don't want to compromise that, right? Like somewhere I thought that it was an either or. No, it doesn't have to fucking be an either or. It does not have to be an either or. right? Oh, if I want family, I can't have my purpose. Oh, if I'm going to be safe, I can't be visible. It's a very binary thinking. It's very hidden. I choose this, I cannot have that. Right? It's one or the other. Do these make sense to you guys? I guess I'll give you the energetic loop of this one. Only one desire is allowed at a time. You're only allowed to have one thing. I might have grown up with that one as well. And how that impacts your wealth is that your soul's desires, your choices are split instead of being synchronized. Right? If I choose this, I can't have that. So we got choice of limitation, choice by indirectness, choice by default, conditional choice, choice by reaction, choice by consensus, choice by adverse possession, and then choice by false polarity. All right. So now that you guys can see the root, the identity, and the choice distortion, let's meet the mirror. Who's ready to meet the mirror? So the wealth archetypes are not actual personality types. They're energetic roles that we've been unconsciously playing. So your archetype is your energetic pattern. Okay. It's what your system has normalized to date. So you don't attract based on what you want. You attract on based on what you've been wired for, what you've been coded for. So I think we've gotten that information across here. So the archetypes are going to show you exactly where your power, your trust, your receptivity have been misdirected and where they're waiting to come online. All right. Are we ready to decode yours now? Some of these you're going to listen to. There's 9 different types that I have put in here. So these are the manifestation patterns that our body believes to be safe. Okay. They're not the personality types. They're the manifestations of the patterns that your body believes to be safe. So if the identity is the soil and your choice is the root system, then the archetype is the tree that you guys are growing. Okay, so let's go meet our archetypes. Not as a label, but as a mere frequency. So this one too, I am going to mention if you really want to get deeper and know your archetype, with specifically, because sometimes you're like, oh, I think it's this, or maybe it's this. There is a quiz that was developed that you guys can all go and do. Okay. So this is the subconscious roles that we're playing in our relationship with our money, with our wealth. And really what we're wanting to go into is the remembrance of the past that we can reclaim our own power with. So in the avoider, I'm going to go through the 9. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the core wound and I'm going to give you the genius gift, what the light expression is, what the shadow expression is in that, where it kind of maybe sits in some of the different chakras. We're not going to go deep, deep, deep into these because there is so much information. When I created these, there is anywhere from 17 to 22 pages that I channeled and brought in. So even when you get your quiz, what you guys are getting is more of how it relates, an overview to you. And what we will do in the future for anybody that has filled out their quiz and hasn't received it, as soon as we get all of these pieces, moving pieces in place, we will actually email you the full document with all the information on your primary archetype. And we put in there your primary and your secondary, because there is going to be a primary that's functioning. And then we're also going to have some secondary in there. So, and it's, I'll go through a little bit of that after we go through this part here. So the avoider, the core wound in this one is that it's avoidance as a form of protection, right? So we avoid it. If I don't see it, I won't feel the shame. I won't feel the failure. I won't feel the fear. If I don't go and look at my bank account, I cannot feel the shame. I cannot feel the failure. I cannot feel the anger or the fear or whatever it is. I don't see it. So the avoider is going to be avoiding as a form of protection. I'm not going to look at this part of my business. I'm not going to look at that part. That's the core wound. We avoid it, right? So the genius part in here is that there's an energetic purity and there can be a deep discernment. So every archetype is actually going to have both. And we want to look at where we're functioning in that so that we can see in that moment, oh, I was just functioning from the wound here, or I was just functioning from the shadow here. Oh, no, if I was stepping into the genius of here, if I was stepping into the creative or light expression of this here, what would I choose here, right? So the genius part in here is that we see through the illusions, right? You can clear the noise and then you can access soul aligned simplicity. If you're in the shadow, you might procrastinate. You fear getting overwhelmed. There's a lot of unmade decisions, so you're avoiding. And when you're in that light expression or that creative expression, there's radical clarity here. There's a calm in the nervous system. There's effortless flow when you step into this, right? So it might be that it's safer not to look when you're in that core wound, when you're in that shadow expression, it's safer not to look. I'm not going to look. I'm not going to look. But when you're in the genius, when you're in that creative expression, you face money with clarity and grace. You can even use that. I face money with clarity and grace. And where this will typically reside in your chakras, and even if it's residing in your chakras, you'll have also a physical body response, is solar plexus, okay, and third eye. So those two are typically where they will reside. Now, again, that might shift slightly in your own reports based on the rest of the information that the questions that I created are designed to. And there are that many questions in there for the simple reason I had 12, I think, initially. And when I did it, I was like, oh, yeah, that's BAM, right? But I'm very clear on seeing my stuff and willing to call myself out. And then when I did some samples on, my husband, my kids, and a few other people, because it's like, well, I used to do that. Now or they're going from the conscious part of wanting to be this version that it was like, oh, the actual unconscious stuff isn't coming up here. So there's that many questions for the simple reason that a lot of them are designed in a way so that you can't overthink it and we actually get to the unconscious part. So those ones in the avoider, solar plexus, and third eye. So the saver, right? This is the person. Oh, I see hearts. Yeah. Yeah. Sneaky, because, none of us are trying to be sneaky when we fill any of that. We want the information, but hey, if I have the perfectionism running, I might want to try to get this quiz perfect. Okay, next archetype, the saver, right? So this person, the core wound with this one is that they lack mindset, and it can be rooted in ancestral scarcity. or scarcity, especially like those that were brought up during the depression during World War. And then that actually kind of goes through because it's been taught. So it goes through the lineage as well. So it's if I let it go, it might not come back. I got to save, right? I used to have this when I had this one and another one. They would conflict because I had one parent that would spend everything and just live for now and enjoy, and the next of scarcity and lack. So I had like the pendulum of like, woo, are we going to swing here, and woo, are we going to swing there, right? So like I'd get a gift certificate for a gift and I wouldn't spend it. In my head, I would spend it like 100 different times, but I'd hold on to it. So I was going into like the savor, the scarcity, that, oh my God, there wasn't gonna be more and I couldn't have more, right? It went into then some of my limitations and some of the sabotaging behaviors. So that one is the lack in mindset is really in scarcity. So if I let it go, it's not going to come back. So when we're in the genius of that one, we can be the stewardess. We can have sustainable wealth wisdom, right? You can build and grow and multiply resources with care and consciousness. So you're not doing it from the scarcity, you're doing it from the stewardess. You're doing it from the wealth wisdom. And if we're in the shadow part of that one, the shadow expression, it might look like hoarding. It could look like underspending. Could be fear of investing. And when we're in that creative and that light expression, it's where we're consciously building. We've got financial foresight. We've got this sacred saving, right? Just because, like, that's what contributes. So in the core wound or the shadow, you might be like, I can't let go or I'll lose control, right? But when we're in the opposite, the genius, the light, it's like, I trust money. I trust money to flow and it returns with ease. So that's where you can know which one you're falling into. Which chakras are the root and the sacral? For this one. Root and sacral is usually because those are the first, that fear, the safety, the being taken care of resides in. So the third archetype is the hoarder. So core wound here is safety equals control. Holding equals survival. So this one got a little more expanded because a lot of people have gone from the saver into the whole hoarder energy. So if I release anything, I am going to lose myself. The genius in this one is there's an energetic anchoring. There's a legacy level vision. Right? We know how to stabilize the foundation of wealth in our physical and our energetic realms. That's when we're in the genius part of that one. There's a legacy level vision. Yeah. Creating that legacy from there versus, oh, I got to survive. I hold on to this so that I can survive. The shadow expression in that one is like you might be clinging. There's stagnant energy. There's fear of flow. Physically, you might have a lot of stuff around you that you don't want to let go of. Like even things, I had a client many years ago, she didn't want to get rid of boxes. Did all these boxes taking up all this space. And this would be not the saver, but it was from the hoarder energy. It was from the space that, well, if I move, I'm going to need the boxes. But it was from the space that if I hold on to it, I got to hold on to it because there's not going to be more. right? If I really like, you can see sometimes like you know, when somebody puts it out there like that, you're like, oh, of course. But these are the unconscious things that we can have running in there. I had the hoarder running with water. And I told this one in the class where it was like, oh, because I'd get an energy of like, oh, everybody's using up the water. Because we make our own water. We distill it and then it goes through another thing and it's alkaline, blah, blah, blah. And I've got all these containers in that, which is funny because then the distiller quit, but doesn't, I mean, that's beside the point. The thing was is that I realized that I would get an energy of like, oh my gosh, it's down, some of the jars are down, right? I wanted to hoard that, so I purposefully didn't make a bunch so that I could bring myself into attention, into, hey Tracy, you can survive this, right? So it's interesting how sometimes things can come into your world to show up. So that, you know, that's the shadow clinging to it, the stagnant energy, fear of flow. When you're in the light of that one, it is a sacred preservation. There's multi-generational stewardship, right? There is an energetic root work happening. That's that legacy energy. When we're in that, creating a legacy, and which is actually one of the things that it's in one of my choices, desired reality, actually. So you might be saying, if you're like, I must hold on tightly to feel safe, right? If you're feeling that, I gotta hold on so I feel safe. And the opposite of that is like releasing is receiving. I'm actually secure in my flow. Oh, yeah, I'm secure in my flow. And this one resides in your root and your solar plexus. So then we've got number 4, the overgiver. All right. So the overgiver core wound is love must be earned through service. Work must be, you know, money must be earned through service. We overgive, right? Like that's how you receive. You just have to be more. You got to give more. You know, if I give enough, I'll be valued. But when you're in that core wound, you're never going to be able to give enough. You're never going to be able to then feel valued. When you're in your genius part of this one, it's heart led. It is an intuitive attunement. It has the ability to heal and transform through frequency and presence. When we're in our genius here, it has the ability to heal and transform through the frequency and presence. In the shadow expression, we've got the we'll undervalue ourselves. Well, we won't ask for a raise. If you're got your own business, you price things too low. You're always in a depletion. Your resentment. There's a resentment as well, right? We can go into the, you know, martyr energy. You know, if you like, oh, I give so much and I don't get in return. I'm not sure why we need the accent when I say that. And when we're in the light expression of that one, you're going to have overflow. There's just overflow of creation in there. There's self-honoring. There's, you know, self-honoring in your giving, the divine exchange. So in the core, the shadow expression, it's like my worth comes from how much I give. We believe our worth comes from how much I give. If I give more, you know, yeah, I'll get more. In the genius, the creative, it's like my presence is enough. I receive with joy. I receive with joy. My presence is enough. Oh yeah, and that one's like sits in the chakras like heart and sacral. Heart and sacral there. So the core wound for mystic floater. That's number 5. Let's go to mystic floater. All right. So the core wound here is embodiment feels unsafe. Right? The world is just too dense. So if I stay only in the upper realms, right? If I only stay way up there in the, so the mystic floater or the dreamer, right? I'm just going to stay way up here. Yeah, that's where it's safe, right? So then we're always in that because the actual embodiment feels unsafe. The world is just too dense. So in our genius with that one, we channel the divine wealth codes. We see the unseen resources when you're in the creative genius, when you're in the genius of that one. It brings in multi-dimensional abundance through things like vision, art, frequency, like in all sorts of different ways. We're bringing that energy in. And how you might see it when it's in the shadow expression is like disconnection, a lack of structure, money resistance, even, I had a total love-hate relationship with money. Didn't want to like money because that wasn't very spiritual. That would have been the shadow expression in there. The creative expression would be that embodied vision, the grounded channeling, the sacred receptivity, right? Like I'm receiving. So when we're in the like the core wound of that, money is just too dense for me, right? Just too dense. And when you're in the creative energy, the genius, you're grounded into your wealth. Your wealth is grounded through your actual sacred presence. And this will be in your crown and root. So, yeah, which is very, very interesting. Yeah. So you're going from the fear and safety and not being protected up and into, I'm just going to be up here. And you don't create more. So 6 is the prover. Mayor says, this is awesome. I have to go play. Yay. Enjoy the Father's Day stuff. The prover, the core wound is that my worth is earned through effort. I got to prove. I've got the prover. I got the prover. If I do more, I'll be enough. Got to do more for it to be enough. The genius gift in this is when you're embodied, you've embodied the devotion, you've embodied sacred leadership. So this has the power to create structures that also liberate others. And when you're in this, the shadow expression of this one, you can have burnout, you can have over efforting, you can have hustle loops. When you're in the creative expression, you've got aligned productivity, you've got sovereign systems, you've got restful mastery. When you function from the shadow of this one, it's like, I have to work hard to deserve it. Got to work hard to deserve this. And when you're in that genius, it's like, my worth is inherent. I lead from my presence. And this one will sit in your solar plexus and root. This is where, we can find some of these energies. So the rebel. So the core wound for the rebel is freedom requires resistance. I'll prove I can do it. I'll prove it. I'll prove it. Even if it hurts, I'll just prove it. And the genius in here is you've got blazing innovations, right? Like you like invent things. You've got these innovations, right? That nobody else does. And it's a frequency disruption because it breaks the rules to build actually new paradigms. Yeah. And if you're in the shadow of this one, you might see yourself as with financial sabotage, anti-structure, the lone wolf mentality. And when you're in the genius here, when you're in this genius, when you're in the creative expression of this, you have a sovereign creation. You have sovereign creation here. You've got a conscious rebellion, right? They've like, actually, no, that doesn't actually work for me. This is what I'm going to create for myself instead. And not from a FU energy. You'll have a whole wealth reinvention. So some of the things in the shadow part would be like your freedom means rejecting everything. Your freedom means rejecting all of the structure. Whereas when you're in the creative part of for the rebel is that you create structure that actually serves you and your choices. You create the structure. You're not at the expense of. And this one will sit in the solar plexus and the heart. So then we've got the skeptic. Number 8 is the skeptic. So here, the core wound is that trust was broken. Somewhere, trust was broken. So then it's like, if I believe, I'll be betrayed. If I believe, I'll be betrayed. So the genius gift in this one is that sacred inquiry and intuitive logic, right? So a natural pattern seer. You'll be a natural pattern seer who brings in discernment into your spiritual or in your financial work, right? Because you're an actual natural pattern seer. Because somewhere, when you were in the core wound was that there was no trust. It was broken. If I believe, I'll be betrayed. When this one used to show up for me, a lot of it was like, I can't have anything good because if I do, this is going to happen. Right? So, but when you're in that, you can then see the patterns and you can actually bring that energy in. So when you're in the shadow expression, you'll overanalyze, you'll distrust your intuition. You'll even have spiritual cynicism, right? So, but when you're in the light expression of that, you've got this conscious discernment, empowered clarity, wisdom activation happens. So in the wound, it's like, if I trust, I'll get hurt. The opposite, in the creative is like, it's safe to believe. I know what's true. And this will sit in the third eye and the heart. Then we got number 9, the rock star. So the core wound here is validation equals value. So if I'm adored, I'm safe. If everybody loves me, I'm safe. So you're always looking for the validation because that's where the value is. That's in the wound. So when you're in your genius, you have this magnetic influence, this amplified abundance. Yeah, right? Because you're like a natural attractor of attention, So then you're also a natural attractor of wealth. You're a natural attractor of opportunity when you are aligned, when you're in the genius. It just naturally is coming in. And when you're in the shadow expression of this one, it'll look like an image over impact, right? Like you've got to have your image correct versus the impact that you are. And then you'll be in a dependency on all the external praise because that's how you validate yourself. But when you're in the light expression of this one, there is an authentic expression. There's an authentic magnetism that people are just drawn because you're authentic in this, right? Because of the joy. And you've got this joyful expression and this embodiment of abundance. So if we're functioning from the wound, it might be like, if I'm not seen, I'm nothing. I'm nothing. And then if we're functioning from the creative part, it's like, my radiance is my wealth. I shine from my truth. Yeah. So this would be in the heart and solar plexus. So every one of these, and if you guys have any other questions about them, I will bring them in here. But every archetype is coded for wealth. But the sabotage is what distorts it. Okay. So our job isn't to fix the sabotage, but it's recoding our identity and it's realigning into your choices and unlocking the genius that is actually already inside of you. And I'm going to open up one of my, just to give you an idea of what is actually all in. And I just did a very, very quick highlight of the archetypes because there's just a lot of information. At some point, I will record in depth on each and every one. So I'm just pulling up mine that says the prover, right? So the mystic title of that one, you also get a mystic title, right? So that one is the tireless achiever. So I'm not going to go through the information in each one, but this is what's actually in them. So you got your name, you got the archetype, you got the mystic title, you got what that actually is, the statement that works with that. So you've maybe mistaken endurance for worth and burnout for brilliance, but you were never meant to earn your way into wealth or love. Then we've got the chakra influence. So you'll have all the chakras. So you got the primary centers, and then it breaks down each center into an area. It gives you the distortion of that. So example for this one is like solar plexus, which is the overdriven engine. So then it's got the distortion in there, which is, your willpower is being pushed past capacity. Your power is defined by performance. There's no pause, only pressure. And then you've got somatic markers. So that'll actually tell you how it feels in your body, right? So this one might be a tight abdomen. Your digestive system gets upset. Your shoulders might go forward. Breath might be held in your chest. You might have nervous tics. We've also added in here the aura behavior. We've got the loop phrase, and then we broke it down. Here's the next one, which was root, right? So again, distortion, the somatic markers, the aura behavior, the loop phrase, the energetic origin. So we've got in here, in that part, right? The soul lineage influences, right? So it could be like this one is Syrian lineages and Atlantic lineage. We've got that in there. So this is some of the soul lineages that fall into here. Then some past life contracts that I've found that will loop to this. You'll also some ancestral imprints that are in here. Your childhood encodings, some vows, energetic contracts, the galactic and soul lineages in here. ancestral contracts and inherited beliefs, how the past life dynamics all maybe, function in here, how the childhood imprints function. And then there's a summary transmission. And then we go deeper into the subconscious money pattern, what that core looks like, what the protective strategy is, what the avoided emotion is, the shadow and sabotage frequency, which has the core identity loop, the behaviors that block wealth, worth, and rest, the nervous system loop, the emotional anchors, the protective strategies, how others will respond when they're in your shadow, how your business and life might look in that sabotage mode, the aura and the energetic field cues, soul contract insights. We're not even halfway through this. And like this is what's all in these in the in-depth, right? So there's also genius and light frequency. So again, what that embodied identity and soul expression looks like, what the nervous system cues, so you can tell when you're in the genius part, the energetic field, the embodiment markers and identity phrases, business and life shifts, what that looks like. Then the coded soul teachings. So there's core teaching, there's timeline markers of transformation, there's field level ripple effects, legacy frequencies, and then we've added in timeline recalibration pathways. So there's a default loop, the core that may be holding it in place, the disruption point, so the sacred fatigue, the choice that will help collapse the loop. And then we give you new timeline anchors. We give you some business symptoms of the shift, right? So like when you shift things, money starts to flow even during rest cycles. And then there's some aura-based confirmations. We've also brought in, because I do believe the somatic and the body, the nervous system has a lot to do with this as well. So I've added in the nervous system signature. So when you're in survival versus the embodied state, what it looks like when you're in the survival mode. And, and in there, right, is like the core state. So the cues, the breath, the voice, the emotional signs, the energetic field, and then what the body state looks like. Again, the physical cues, the breath, the emotional signs, the energy field. And then we also give you next steps to your wealth shifts in there. That's really, really in depth. Some somatic recalibration practices that really, really work specifically to the nervous system, because we want to also reprogram that in there. Daily nervous system phrase, some mantras, because some people really, really do like that. I use the mantra. I've only added them. I say use those with a grain of salt, just for the simple fact that if you do not believe what you're saying, don't actually use that until you actually step into there. And then the symbolic body postures, how you can hold your body. There's some mirror prompts, frequency cues, repatterning. We've added some essential oils that that are responsive to your body again. Some tapping, some script, some actual tapping techniques, and then of course there's always some free resources right into some of the those were all free resources into you wanting to take things deeper, and how to do that with some of my stuff. So those are the extended part in there. Yes, and I'll go back to I see a question in the thing. So yeah, so part of that's all going to be in there. If, like I said, you guys have all gotten a condensed version as well in the reports that were individualized, but I do believe that these are really, really in depth. And if you're wanting to take it to a next level, then that is all available for you, and we will get those out. I'm going to say in the next 10 days, because I would like to get this information that we decided to just do here first, but you all get follow-ups with all of that. And then there's also, so that is, let me just find a link here for anybody that's wanting to do the money reports. So, did I? Looks like I didn't put that in here. So, All right. Oh, this is my frequency report. Just looking for that. That will also be emailed out. It is on my product page. Let me just put this in there. I know most of you. Where's my chat? Main chat. Okay, so on the product page, you're going to find different quizzes. What I am going to suggest, though, you can access the quizzes there. We will be emailing out a special here. Let me see if I can find that. If you are interested in taking and having access to the money quiz, that is there. And we are going to give you a special on that for the next 72 hours for $199. Okay, this has everything in it, but don't buy from there because that's at the regular price. And for you guys, I want you to have the special. Here we go. I'm going to give you this special. Now, if you're buying the money class right now, everything's included. The both quizzes and the 12 chakra activation. So you don't need to buy those separately. You're welcome. If you're not interested in the money class, the wealth class, go ahead, buy what you want. You will only find in this link of the activation wealth path, the special to the chakra code. Recode is in there that we have added if you were buying the quizzes. It's the only place you're going to find it. And membership, and anybody that's already bought, you guys already have access to it. It's about an hour long. Feedback has been dynamic. Yeah. So, all right. So, any questions from anyone here? And then I'll do a recode, and then I'll answer that one question as well, which is more of we can add at the very end of everything. All right. Just give you a minute or two. And we're just going to do a little mini recode. There's also pretty in-depth recodes in the classes. I'm not seeing any questions, so let's do a little mini here. So I know that there's numerous people that have to jump off. All right, so just closing your eyes, I want you to just connect in, just allow yourself to relax, allow your body to relax. Just breathing in, whether you are live or on the replay watching this. I'm just going to also ask, do you give me, Tracy, permission to connect to your superconscious? or a recode. Good. So just going to ask superconscious, all energies, all part-time personalities, all pieces, all old identities, all of the archetypes, the sabotaging behaviors, the ineffective choices, any of the energies, woo, that came up. Thank you. You've been gathering, yes, all of this information. It's almost like let's just add this all into a bubble. Mm-hmm. And we're going to actually do a recode. Please tag and treat any and all of these. Let's first start. Yeah, we're going to break it. Okay, into parts and pieces. Good. So let's grab all the, yeah, okay, all of the energies that came up first for the sabotaging behaviors, the 6 sabotaging behaviors, any of it, and all of those that affect any of the pieces, parts, and part-time personalities, please tag and treat, do a massive change history and everything that is, recoding all of that, also including any chakras or anything else that was attached to. Please bring that in. Yes. Great. Tag and treat all of those. Memories 1, 2, 3, and any tandem memories, any past life energies, any lineage. Just kind of spiraling there. Okay, good, good, good. So we know that this is a pretty deep one, and we're not going to go super, super deep today, but I want the energy to keep moving and keep flowing so that it keeps working and shifting, untagging, and treating all of these energies. Yeah, as everybody goes through their day. Of course, doing this with ease and flow. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Super conscious. Please tag and treat any and all energies that came up. Yes, with the choices, the ineffective choices. Yeah. Tag and treat all memories 1, 2, 3, tandem memories, past life memories. Any galactic, okay, any soul lineage, any ancestral as well that's flowing through. Please find, tag, and treat any and all of these. Looking through all the chakras, the energy systems, the meridians. Yes, thank you. Do a massive change history and everything that is. Yeah. Also, let's just start tagging and treating any of the confusion. Yeah. Okay, good. Now let's also go into tagging and treating any and all of the energies that came up with the wound, or even can I step into the creative energies? Anything also that is linked into the archetypes. Yeah. Tag and treat any and all of those. There's something else there. So any of the also from the primary to the secondary and any other influential, especially in regards to wealth. That's what we're looking at today. Please tag, treat, and do a massive change history and everything that is. Yeah, touching on memories 1, 2, 3, any tandem memories, past life memories. Yeah, soul lineage, ancestral, or anything else not mentioned. That in, good. Yeah, allowing people to make it easier, making choices, shifting some of that emotion. Yeah, addressing any and all of the chakras. So let's just bringing in the DNA and the nervous system, bringing that online. Anything that's out of alignment, tagging and treating all of that. Do a massive change history and everything that is. All right, there we go. Oof. Super conscious, please continue to work and adjust any and all energies we've touched on today. We're going to ground them in now, and please ground them in when it's complete as well. Grounding in all memories, grounding everything into that we touched on, memories 1, 2, 3, all tandem, all lineage, all ancestral, the chakras, and anything else that was shifted and adjusted. Grounding all of this into the matrix. There we go. Good. And as we ground that into the matrix of the universe, also just grounding in each person's unique frequency, their own wealth frequency, their individual frequency, grounding that in to this next timeline, opportunity, and possibility that has been opened up today. Grounding that into the earth, into Gaia. As it flows down the legs, the very core, mingling with the earth energy as that flows up, flows back up, winding, dancing with each frequency, your own frequency, as your frequency, your wealth frequency is like a branch coming out through your crown, out through the cosmos, out and up. Good. Connecting into that original wealth blueprint that's yours, that's there. Mingling with that as that comes down through and with your frequency down back through your body. All three energies now mingling, dancing in the cosmos, in that blueprint, your own beautiful frequency, your beautiful wealth frequency, and the earth, creating your own heaven on earth here now. Taking a deep breath in and releasing that. And then connecting in throughout the day as to what's available to you now, what actions, what is something that would support you. And then being gentle with yourselves. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for playing. Thank you for showing up here. And me getting to present some of this information. Like I said, some of this might be brand new for some of you. We are doing deeper dives into all of this. As you can see, you can dive deep, deep, deep. This was just the little tip of the iceberg. And I look forward to really actually diving deeper with people and playing with you guys with this. So everybody have the most fabulous day. The recordings, great. Oh, I'm glad this was contributory to you guys. This stuff will be emailed out. Well, the recording will be emailed access within 24 to 48 hours. And then, like I said, sometime this week, we will actually get the companion sheets. I'm going to pull out some of the information in the next few days from here so that you guys have just even that tip of the iceberg. Is that something that you guys would like to have access to? Yeah. Okay. I see some hearts and yeses. So cool. All right.